Hello again, welcome to Separate, my weekly magazine video series looking at the keeping, breeding and showing of cage birds, with a particular focus on the exhibition style budgerigar. Thanks for all those who commented on the last video, and particularly those who made suggestions around the chicks that were in cage number 4, the ones where we had lost a couple. And I know some people have suggested putting a piece of millet spray in there. I do that. So in all of the nest boxes that have got chicks in, I will generally put about an inch worth of millet spray in the nest box, just to give the chick something to peck at and the hen something to peck at inside the nest box as well. From a chick point of view, they begin to learn how to shower seed, and so when they do come out, it aids the weaning process. I do that in the nest boxes. I normally put it in, I start putting it in when I've rung the first chick. So as soon as I've got one that's old enough to be rung, I start putting it in. You may not have seen it in the nest boxes when I've shown you the chicks, because I tend to take it out and replace it each morning. But thanks anyway for commenting and suggesting that. It's always good to get other people's views on it. Touch wood, we've not lost any more chicks in that next box, and hopefully we will, those last two will survive. So in this episode we're going to talk about chick hides, and I did mention it in the last episode I would run through a cheap, if not free, solution to producing chick hides. I will talk a little bit about why you put a chick hide in there and what I use as a chick hide. As always, if you enjoy the videos, don't forget to hit the like button. Do of course share them, comment. I appreciate all the comments that are made on the videos, and of course if you're not yet a subscriber to the channel, then why not hit the subscribe button and hit the bell icon if you want early notifications. So, chick hide. So we have a number of cages now with older chicks in them that are either about to or very shortly will be jumping the nest box. So coming out of the nest box for the first time, and will end up on the cage floor. First thing I'd say is that I know some people don't like the wire cages and the way that I've got them behind, because it means the chick is up directly onto a wire cage floor, and I know some people will say that this can hurt the chick's legs. I've used these cages now for must be best part of 6 years, if not longer, and I've never had a problem with a chick hurting its leg when it's come out and landed on the all wire cage floor. But I know some people have, so it's a matter of choice whether you use this type or not, and I know there are pros and cons. From my point of view, the reason I like the all wire cage floor is any soft food will drop through onto the tray below, out of reach of the young chicks, and I think there's more chance of a youngster becoming sick because it's eating stale soft food than it damaging its legs on the all wire cage floor. So anyway, like I say, pros and cons, it's up to you whether, personal choice in your own shed as to which style you use. What I do find is that if I put a chick hide in there, the chicks will either go into here, which of course saves their legs, or they will sit on the food dish that's in the bottom, which is also better, kinder on their feet than the all wire cages. Although sometimes I will have some that will just spend their whole time sat on the all wire floor. So chick hides, why do we put them in is the first question, I suppose, and then what is it that I use? So we use a chick hide because occasionally, and I must admit, touch wood, so far I've never had a major issue with this, but occasionally when a chick first comes out, either the cockbird or the hen may become quite aggressive towards it. This normally happens when either the cock or the hen bird is getting ready to, the hen is getting ready to lay again and the cockbird wants to mate again. Sometimes the cockbird can be overly amorous towards the youngsters, or the hen or the cockbird tend to find it's normally the hen, will begin to become aggressive towards the chicks in order that when she sees the cockbird feeding the chicks. I suspect in the wild this is to drive the chicks further away from the nest site, and of course the chicks have got nowhere to go in a breeding cage and nowhere to hide unless you put something in there. So the reason we use a chick hide is it gives the chicks somewhere to go, out of sight and out of mind of either the hen or the cockbird, like I say, when they become a little bit aggressive towards the chicks. I know some people do have chicks killed by either the hen or the cockbird at this stage, at the weaning stage. So that's why we use the chick hide. You can buy them, you can buy them online, and you can get some quite nice ones on them, some chick hides that double up as feeding stations. You can make them out of wood. What I tend to do is I use these. So old margarine pots. I sometimes will use old ice cream tubs, the ones that you put in the freezer. But I certainly find the old margarine, or I don't think it's called margarine anymore, is it? So the spread tubs that so the slightly larger ones like this is what I tend to use. The reason I use these, so all I do is I cut a small hole in the front. You can see it there. Now you could cover that, I said this before in a previous video, you could cover that with tape if you think that it's going to be a bit sharp on them. I don't think it is. I've never had a problem with the bird cutting its feet on those. And once you cut that in, you put the lid back on. I tend to leave the bottom bit here intact because I find it's when I cut that away, I find the lid tends to fall off a little bit too much. Now you can either place it that way up, which I find means that sometimes when the older chicks, if it's that way up, they can knock the lid off. So if that's the case, place it that way up. In most cases you can put it either way up. The advantages and disadvantages are just to do with the amount of floor space. There's more floor space there and less floor space there. That way the lid can tend to be knocked off sometimes by the chicks when they're knocking against the top of it. But on that way, this way up, there's more space on top for the chicks to climb on and then jump up onto the perch when they get a little bit older. You can, and I do this, although I sort of think it's a little bit of a waste of time, but I still do it anyway, is put a little bit of nesting material in the base, just to make it easier for the chicks to walk on and to nest in, or to roost in. I tend to find that they tip it all out really, really quickly anyway, but you can do that. I still do it, but like I say, they tend to knock it all out and it becomes a little bit of a waste of bedding material. But anyway, I'll put a little bit of that in. When do I place these in the cage? I tend to put these in the cage, like I say, just as the chicks are getting ready to leave. Sometimes if I have one that leaves early and continues to keep jumping out, I'll put it in and pop the chick inside it. Some chicks will use them straight away, others won't. Sometimes you have to just pop the chick in to sort of get used to the idea of going in and out of them. When you first put them in, you will often find that the cock and the hen will become interested in them. I've never had a problem with the hen deciding that she wants to go to nest in here. She's much more likely to use the nest box that's slightly higher than to use this. And I will leave these in until the last of the chicks are weaned. One of the good things about these, I find, is they are very easy to clean. So once you take them back out again, they're very easy to keep clean. Of course, otherwise you'd just be chucking these away or popping them into the recycling. So they're cheap, don't cost you anything really other than a bit of time. And the other thing is when they do get a bit too old, a bit too grubby, you can just put them in the recycling anyway. And then use a new one. Anyway, that's the chick hides that I use. Hope that's helpful for any people that, we're all on a bit of a budget, aren't we? And like I say, these don't cost anything and work equally as well as the ones that, the 30 or 40 quid ones, I think. So, or they're more expensive ones. I think they work just as well. Anyway, what I'm going to do now is put a little bit of bedding inside this, and we'll pop them into cages number 1 and number 4. Well, I've put the 2 chick hides into the 2 cages now, so I hope you found that useful. At least some of you might have found that useful. I know that when you first start out on this hobby, the initial outlay, initial cost can be almost off-putting, I suppose, in terms of the cost of birds and cages, seeds, nest boxes, all those other things you've got to buy, and anything that can keep the cost of the hobby down, particularly at current climate with prices forever seeming to go up and up and up. Anything that can keep the prices down, I think, is always useful, particularly those of us who, like myself, on a budget, juniors, for example, who maybe finding it difficult to get started. So, and there's a one way of providing, something really, really cheaply that otherwise you might have to either purchase or make yourself. If you've got any other ideas about, keeping the prices down on things, you've got any of those little, little gems of knowledge that you've come across, a bit like, I suppose, when I was out visiting Bob McCabe, he was using the heads of coffee jars as little soft food feeders. So I now do that. I've used those, I've got those now, and I use those out in the outside flight with for the canary, the soft food for the canaries. So I use those. So again, something otherwise you just throw away. So any little gems like that, please let me know, and leave it in the comments, and perhaps I'll mention them in a future episode. So anyway, like I say, they're in there with, the chicks are actually just starting to come out of the nest boxes now, particularly in cage 1. Funnily enough, it's the oldest bird that's remaining in there at the moment. The other thing that I've done is I have now finished ringing all of the birds, all of the young birds from the first round, and I put here no rings, and the reason for that is that I know, I've been watching on Facebook, there's a large number of people who have now received their Budgerigar Society rings for 2024. These were posted out early because here in the UK we've got a postal strike coming out, and in order to make sure that everybody was going to get their rings in time, they posted them a little bit earlier than they would normally do. Unfortunately, mine haven't yet arrived, and the chicks were getting a little bit too old, so I need to put a ring on them. I was holding out on the last chick, hoping they would arrive. They haven't done, so all of the first round chicks have got 2023 rings on them, unfortunately. So we'll have to wait for the second round in order to get some chicks with 2024 rings on them. So that's why it's cheap chick hides and no rings in the title of this particular video. So yeah, all of them have now been rung. Like I say, some of the chicks are out and starting to have left the nest box. We've still got a few more. So it's time to start thinking about weaning. And indeed, I think in the next episode I will talk a little bit about how I go about weaning the birds and moving them from the breeding cage into the nappy flight. But we'll talk, like I say, we'll talk a little bit more about that in the next episode. So in terms of how all the other birds are doing, and so the other cages, the cage in pair number 4, this is the cobalt cockbird, that is on their second round, and it does look to me as if all of the second round are clear, just like the first round. So I will check those towards the end of the week, just to make double certain. If that's the case, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the cockbird out of here, pop him back in the mine flight, and over the next 2 weeks or so I will remove the eggs from the hen, give her a little bit of a break in the cage on her own, and then I will put her back in the flight. But in the meantime, we're going to be looking in that main flight to have a look to see what we've got in there that we might be able to pair up. So I'll do a little bit of pairing up on paper, and then perhaps in the next episode we'll look at what I've picked out, a couple of options, and look to see what the next pair will be. Maybe I'll put it up, a couple of pairs up, and let you choose, a couple of cockbirds, a couple of hens, and let you, the subscribers, choose which you put with which, after I've given you the information about them. I'll have a think about that, and maybe I will have a look at that in the next episode. So I think we did it once before in one of the very, very early episodes of Shed Talk. Anyway, so that's really that pair there. In terms of the new pair that we put down, you remember we took the old hen that we got from Bob McCabe out of cage number 6, popped a new pair hen in there with the grey-green, cinnamon grey-green cockbird. So hen's definitely been inside the nest box, and she hasn't done a lot of clearing, but she's been inside there without a doubt, because I keep piling the nesting material up so that I can see that at least she or the cockbird's been in there. I'm assuming it's her, and but she's showing no other signs of going to nest just yet. There's no big poops. I've not seen any real interaction between the cockbird and the hen, but it's still early days yet. I'll give them another week, see how they get on in that nest box. So that's cage number 6. All the other cages, we're just now waiting for them to start the second round for birds to come, or the chicks to jump the nest, and for them to set their next round. So there we go. That's pardon me. That's a very quick update on how the breeding has gone so far. Well, that brings us to the end of another episode, I'm afraid. If you enjoyed it, don't forget the like button. All the likes help the channel. If you're not yet a subscriber, do subscribe, and don't forget the bell if you want early notifications. As I said earlier in the video, if you have any ideas around those little things that are, cheap and handy that you use, do share those in the comments, and we will maybe talk about them in the next episode, along with looking at a pair to replace the pair that will go into cage number 4. But until that episode, as always, do stay safe and enjoy those birds.